Just going to give you a little bit of information about some of the clays I use at Powdermills. First of all, just about tours generally on Dartmoor. These tours, these lumps of rock, were formed 300 million years ago, and they would have been hot magma-y type stuff that have cooled to stone. But the interesting thing is, these lumps of rock would originally have been 1 mile under the ground surface. So they would have been quite deep, all of them. And a mile's worth of rock and land above them has eroded away in that 300 million years. And we're left with these rock outcrops to look at and climb and generally enjoy on Dartmoor. And I'm going to walk up this particular rock and just point out some information about Dartmoor Clay. Okay, so here we are again. There's Haytor Rocks, and down in this valley I'm going to try and point at it with a finger. Right, so here you can see a ridge of land. On the other side of that ridge of land is a valley, and in that valley 30 million years ago, 2 plates of the earth crust were moving and rubbing against each other, and consequently, as well as all the weathering that was happening, there was what they call tectonic activity, which is when the 2 plates of the earth's crust rub together. And so all sorts of different rocks and minerals were formed as the ground was under pressure. And then in that river valley there were rivers that carried what was called kaolinite, in other words china clay, and it moved it towards the sea. Okay, so I'm going to move around here, and if you look very carefully you will see the sea out there. There it is. Okay, so this is Teignmouth here and Shaldon out on the coast. So as the water moved down that valley, carrying all this stuff that was being formed from hot squashed rock and minerals, there were lakes where the water pooled and slowed down on its way. And where it did that, it started to drop some of the things that it was carrying. One of the things it was carrying was clay. So it's china clay that's moved, picked up all sorts of impurities, all of which are useful, and formed little lakes. And they were dropped. Now, can you see these white scars in the land down there? See those? They're clay mines. Some of the most commercially wonderful mined clays are being pulled out of little lakes that were there 30 million years ago. And that's where I'm going to pick up some clay samples.